Tales from the Borderlands is a story-driven game from Telltale Games set in the Borderlands universe. The company was known for making narrative-focused games where players make dialogue and action choices affecting the journey of the characters. So after playing through the full game, I started thinking about how to write the first act of a feature film version inspired by it, which would involve adapting the storyline. For this video, I focused on crafting a short outline with rough story beats for a 3-act movie inspired by Tales from the Borderlands. It should also be noted that I approach writing this with a mindset of trying to capture the spirit of the game while allowing for some creative liberties to be taken. That means, where needed, I made some choices to change things to streamline or strengthen the narrative structure of the proposed film. And as many writers know, what I'm presenting here is a version of the story. It could be rewritten further with subsequent drafts. Per usual, there will be spoilers for Tales from the Borderlands, so I recommend checking out the game before proceeding further. To capture the tone of the original game, I noted that it's a hyperkinetic mix of action, adventure, and comedy, with funny characters who don't take themselves too seriously. But it also allows for genuine, heartfelt moments, as we get invested in the character relationships. So part of my journey in crafting this adaptation is to honor the game's tone. When looking at writing a script, I start by asking several key questions. First off, theme-wise, what is the story really about at its core? The theme I settled on for this film is choosing to take responsibility for your actions can lead to a new lease on life. It's a story about second chances, focusing on a group of misfits who step into a heroic journey under the most unusual of circumstances. Next, I asked, who are the main characters? This also entails the question of what is the key relationship in the film that we're following? Inspired by the theme of second chances, I established Rhys and Fiona, the two protagonists of the game, as the key duo and relationship in this film adaptation. When we first meet both characters, they're stuck in specific socially defined roles, so their character arcs over the course of the film involve breaking out of those roles. Getting a second chance at life means boldly seizing an opportunity to see more than what you are at the moment, to realize more potential within yourself, to dig deeper, and to strive for something better. In the beginning, Rhys is a lowly corporate employee who's frustrated in his quest to climb up the higher ranks of the Hyperion company. Meanwhile, Fiona is a scrappy con artist on the planet Pandora, working with her sister Sasha, going from one scheme to the next. Both of them could continue on these paths for the rest of their lives, but in order to have a meaningful character arc tied to the theme of second chances, we want to see them grow and change over the course of this journey. Also, I asked, what is their relationship? In the game, they were not romantic in any way. In fact, the game fostered more of a romantic connection between Rhys and Fiona's sister, Sasha. I think it's possible to set up Rhys and Fiona in the film adaptation as competitive rivals, who eventually learn to respect and complement each other. One comparative example that came to my mind was Maverick and Iceman in the original Top Gun movie. For this film, there could still be a minor romantic dynamic with Rhys and Sasha, especially if it creates further tension between Rhys and Fiona. It's also possible to include a brother-sister type of competitiveness between Rhys and Fiona, which would be good subtext for their dynamic. Moving forward with this iterative process, I asked, how do I want the movie to end? For example, what is the final scene in the film, and how do I want the audience to feel at the end? My initial thoughts were that I wanted the audience to have a feel-good experience when the film finishes. We want to see these lovable, misfit characters finally get their act together, unite while facing great challenges, and then triumph with a big victory. In the game, the main characters had a band together to destroy a giant monster called the Traveler, who was unleashed after opening the vault on Pandora. This makes for a great action climax in the third act, so I thought of keeping it for the film adaptation. But I started to ask, where is the big sacrifice that one of our main characters has to make to save the day? If Rhys is initially established as a self-absorbed character who only acts for his own benefit, maybe there's a hero's journey payoff for him if he makes a big sacrifice at the end. I started to plot out a path where Rhys is responsible for unleashing the monster Traveler from the vault, somewhere in the end of the second act. In the game, there's another character named Valerie who unleashed the monster by using the upgraded robot Gortys. But what if, in the second act, we build up a growing alliance between Rhys and Fiona, and then Rhys breaks from this by selfishly pursuing his own goal and reward, which means leaving Fiona behind. And this causes a domino effect of events leading to the monster being released from the vault. I started to ask, what if Rhys is secretly jealous of Fiona's skill as a con artist? Maybe he has been frustrated for so long as a Hyperion employee, and he's been waiting to get his big break of success. When he and Fiona cross paths, he's in awe of her street smarts and con artist skills. So when he betrays Fiona near the end of the second act, he thinks he's using all the tricks that Fiona taught him, but now he's using it against her, and he's going to finally get the reward he deserves. Meanwhile, I started to ask, what if Fiona has always had trouble trusting another person beside her sister Sasha? What if her emotional arc involves learning how to open up and trust someone else, and she starts this journey with Rhys? So as Fiona reaches a point of emotional growth in the second act by trusting Rhys as a team partner, he is on his own arc of wrestling with his own frustrations and betrays her, causing a dramatic break in their relationship. This kind of exploration process only leads us deeper into the main characters and their underlying psychology. I started to see Rhys as a man who perhaps struggles with knowing his self-worth and trying to find validation by the standards of the world around him. That's why when push comes to shove in the second act, he chooses to betray Fiona in order to pursue his own goals. Perhaps one way to play this out is that he has a secret deal with Valerie and ends up handing over the upgraded Gortys to her in exchange for some large monetary reward or something else that will help him secure a higher position at the Hyperion Company. We could write a scene establishing that Valerie has a secret connection to a high-level Hyperion executive, and this person can usher Rhys into a new job at the company. By fleshing out this path for Rhys, I recognize that we are setting up an important dramatic question that the film needs to answer. Will Rhys betray Fiona and go his own way, or will he stick with her and save the day? Thinking this thought also led me to wonder if the audience should know beforehand that Rhys will betray Fiona, or if the betrayal should be kept secret and we discover it as Fiona experiences it. I think if we, as the audience, see more inside Rhys's head and know that there's a possibility he may betray Fiona, this adds more dramatic tension to a linear story. We would be on the edge of our seats wondering this and hoping that he doesn't betray Fiona because we've grown to like seeing them together. So these are some initial thoughts to set up the characters and their dynamics before we dive into figuring out the next milestones. I started looking at structuring the first act of story beats for the film adaptation, and this is what I roughly worked out. The overall shape of the movie could resemble a heist film, with Rhys, Fiona, and Sasha forming a band of misfits focusing on retrieving the original vault key. In Act 1, we need an opening scene, so I thought of bringing Rhys, Fiona, and Sasha together sooner than what we see in the original game. My pitch was to have Fiona and Sasha be captured by the Hyperion Company at the story's beginning, and Rhys is sent to process and help with an interrogation for them. This is a very different setup from the game, which had Rhys and his friend Vaughn take a stolen briefcase of money to Pandora to buy a vault key, which was later revealed to be a fake made by Fiona and Sasha. So we're establishing the main characters and laying out the world of this film in these first rough story beats. Let's call this big general story beat establishing the world and its characters. Maybe we start with Rhys getting his assignment on the Hyperion space station, Helios, and he travels down to the nearby planet of Pandora for the interrogation. As we follow Rhys navigating through the interrogation setting, we would get to see the bizarre world of Borderlands, with the corporate structure of Hyperion contrasting with the wild, Mad Max visuals of Pandora. Rhys would interact with his friend Vaughn during these early scenes to help establish Rhys's situation and his underlying desire to rise above his present circumstances. On the script page, there could be 3 to 4 scenes that cover this story information. Then there could be a story beat we'll label Storms on the Horizon, which could reveal some of the internal fears that Rhys is experiencing. This helps to build a more complex subtext for his character. Maybe Rhys's coworker and friend Vaughn informs him that there are rumors of some corporate downsizing happening at Hyperion, and Rhys fears he might be let go. So he would want to do something to improve his circumstances and further his station in life. Fiona and Sasha could have a reputation for being famous con artists, so when Rhys is sent to help interrogate them, he interprets this as a possible means to win favor with the Hyperion bosses. Perhaps in the process of the interrogation, Fiona and Sasha convince Rhys to help bust them out. If he helps them escape, they'll cut him in on a deal where they are going to find the original vault key. This would probably be the inciting incident. This is the primary event that really gets the story going because it brings our main cast of characters together. So why would Fiona and Sasha make a deal with Rhys? Fiona recognizes that Rhys has cybernetic capabilities built into his body, and that could help them access information to find the true vault key as they raid various stations across Pandora. Fiona initially sees Rhys as an instrument for her to use. This could also reinforce Rhys's character arc of struggling with his self-worth, and might even precipitate his eventual betrayal of Fiona. This could be rooted in his distorted belief that she doesn't really respect him. After the inciting incident, we need a story beat where the protagonist reacts to it. Often the protagonist reacts to the inciting incident in a way that reveals his core fear. So if we dig deeper into Reese as a character, perhaps his core fear is that he's afraid that his life is meaningless and doesn't have a strong direction. He wants to matter and to do something of significance. Reese would respond to the inciting incident by agreeing to help Fiona and Sasha escape, and they head out into Pandora as the Hyperion employees chase after them. Some dramatic tension could be introduced between Reese and Fiona if we establish that the two of them have different expectations of their deal from the get-go. This can be played on later in the film as the two characters experience escalating conflict with each other. Reese sees this as his big break to score a reward. Fiona sees this deal as a means to exact revenge on an antagonist who killed her mother. I started to invent a different backstory from the game where maybe Valerie is the main antagonist for our characters. Perhaps Fiona blames Valerie for causing her mother's death, so she wants to find the vault and redirect the monster coming out of the vault to kill Valerie. After this milestone, there would be a few scenes tracking Reese, Fiona, and Sasha escaping from the interrogation station, and then finding clues to the vault key that lead them to the abandoned Atlas station, similar to the original game. I also thought of introducing another antagonist character who might be a Hyperion corporate bounty hunter sent to chase after our gang. The end of Act 1 is a turning point, and we would show the main cast of characters leaving their usual surroundings that we've established and then going off into a new world. A story beat that works for this could be Reese, Fiona, and Sasha discovering the Gortys robot at the abandoned Atlas station, revealing the larger backstory of the vaults and how the one on Pandora has special significance. So overall, these are the general rough story beats for Act 1 in a film adaptation of the Tales from the Borderlands game. The process of setting up the beats would be followed by further rewriting at an outline stage, and then getting into script pages as the next step.